As the show played out in front of me, the sound of silverware clinking against china served as a mocking soundtrack. It was our 10th anniversary. As a significant event, I had come expecting a romantic, personal supper for the two of us, but Rose insisted on inviting friends instead. Her buddy Troy, in particular, sat across from us, his smoky smile making my skin crawl. It had been a slow burn. The understanding of what was taking place between them I had first written off, a fleeting glance here and a lingering touch there as my own fears, but tonight they were evident. Rose's wink, that blatant brazen wink, was a dagger straight to my gut. It was a confirmation, a taunt, a betrayal so profound it nearly stole my breath. That was directed at Troy, his eyes locking with hers in a silent, revolting conversation. For a moment the blood roared in my ears. I wanted to flip the table, scream until my throat was raw, but I didn't. I had a plan and it needed to play out just so. I had spent weeks building this moment. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment reaction fueled by rage alone. This was calculated, meticulous, a slow burn mirroring the pain I had been enduring. The gift I presented next was not the ruby necklace she was surely expecting or any trinket to celebrate our decade together. Instead, I pushed a small velvet box across the table towards her. It was the same box I used to present her engagement ring years ago. Rose's eyes widened. A flicker of something like genuine excitement crossed her face before she slowly reached for the box. When she opened it, her smile faltered, then died completely. The box was empty. The gasps came from all three of us, but hers was the only one tinged with genuine horror. "Where's the necklace, honey? I thought it would be perfect for our anniversary. I saw it in a shop window just last week." Remember, I kept my tone light, conversational, like we were discussing the weather. My eyes, however, were locked on her face, watching her meticulously constructed facade begin to crumble. Troy moved uneasily in his seat. "And I'm not sure what you mean when you say that he was also taken by surprise." The habit of nonchalance was replaced by a raw, naked panic as Rose stammered, her voice in a tight whisper. "I thought it was beautiful, but then I had another idea for a different gift that I think you'll find illuminating." I reached into my jacket pocket and took out a USB drive. "This is a gift I made just for you, my love." Her face went pale, and she knew she was caught the moment I plugged the drive into the tiny portable projector I had hidden behind me earlier. A series of pictures of them were then displayed on the blank wall. The last nail in the coffin was a video that was only a few minutes long but chronicled in nauseating detail the depths of their betrayal. It was enough to make her blush and Troy writhe, and the silence in the room was deafening. Rose and Troy's stolen moments at his apartment at her office on our anniversary trip last year that she insisted I couldn't make and told me she'd gone with her friends. Rose's face was white with tears running down her cheeks as she gazed at the wall. Troy, who had been so arrogant only moments before, was now staring at his lab as if he could somehow vanish into the tablecloth. He opened his mouth to speak, but my voice was dangerously low. "I always believed that we were a team and a partnership, but I suppose that some partnerships are just meant to end." I approached Troy with the rage I had been holding inside, and when I finally realized it was out of control, I snarled and grabbed him by his shirt. "You had the gall to sit at my table and treat me like an idiot," so I dragged him out of his chair. The sound of the wood scraping the floor echoed in the suddenly quiet restaurant, and he tried to wriggle free to protest, but I wouldn't let him. I slammed him against the wall, and the force of the impact reverberated throughout the room. His wide eyes met mine, and I saw only the fear of a man finally having to face the consequences of his actions. "You are a parasite." Every word I said, Troy, was a punch delivered with the weight of all the weeks of betrayal I had endured. This time, I hit him harder, sending his head bouncing off the wall as he crumpled to the floor and whimpering. The restaurant staff, who had been watching in frozen horror, finally hurried to intervene. They attempted to pull me away, but I was beyond reason. I kicked him hard in the ribs because I was driven by a righteous rage and a burning desire to make him realize how much pain he had caused. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" I continued the attack, each blow releasing the anger and pain that had been building inside of me. He didn't fight back. Instead, he just curled into a ball and begged me to stop. It was pitiful, but eventually the manager was able to separate us. I was breathing heavily, my knuckles throbbing, but a strange sense of calmness descended upon me. The police arrived soon after. They took my statement, and they took Troy away. He was looking disheveled, with blood streaming from his mouth and nose. He no longer looked so smug. Instead, he looked like the pitiful broken man that he was. Rose was in a mess, sobbing uncontrollably on the floor in a puddle of tears, mascara, and broken promises. I actually looked at her, and for the first time, I felt nothing but a blank emptiness instead of anger or despair. I approached her, took the wedding ring off my finger, and dropped it in front of her. the metal making a dull clinking sound on the wooden floor. "Congratulations. You've successfully ruined our marriage, Rose." I took a long breath, decided I was done, and turned to leave the restaurant. Although I had no plan and no destination, the silence that followed me gave me a sense of freedom that I hadn't had in years. I knew the journey ahead would be difficult and terrible, but I was at last completely free, and the chaos that followed was inevitable. The scandal made the local news. Troy's reputation was destroyed, his career was over, and he was a pariah, and rightfully so. Rose tried to contact me by calling and texting me endlessly, pleading for forgiveness, but I had nothing left to offer her. Our divorce was swift and brutal, and the lawyers were the only ones who profited from the wreckage of our marriage. She was left with nothing but the ruins of her betrayal. I left the rubble behind and moved on to pick up my own broken pieces. It wasn't a happy ending, not in the conventional sense, but it was mine. That in and of itself was a sort of victory, since I had regained control, faced my suffering, and emerged from it afraid but unbroken.